My first pack was, my first pack was 65 cents. Just two.
Did you hear that?
Okay, I'm gonna call the Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 regular session of council to order. And so I'm gonna start with a major announcement about my future with the village. I'm just kidding, it's April Fool's. There were some people in the audience going, yes. And there were a couple going, oh shit. Oh, this is recorded live. Okay, I'm gonna be Kathleen tonight. Mr. Moran is going to need a motion. He's not feeling well. We're gonna need a motion to excuse him at the appropriate time, as well as, Ms. Nagorski. So I'm gonna start with the call to order. It's on the agenda. Number one, call to order. Ms. Gersh.
Here.
Mrs. Grayora. Mrs. Cray. Mr. Moran. Mr. Dunban.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Now can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good and welfare. For those that celebrate, I do want to say, because we won't meet again likely before then, but happy Easter. Council, do you have any good and welfare?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Moran from this evening's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a secondary motion to excuse Ms. Nagorski from this meeting. Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And for those, there are periodically residents that pass that we do not find out in time. So I'm just gonna ask for a quick motion, a moment of silence for residents who have passed that we may not have been made aware of at this time. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to open the floor to the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District to present to council. You have in your packet, it's a 1,200 page variance request. It's asking for a variance for a work permit. I'm gonna give you a microphone so that everybody can hear, and if you'd like to step up to the firing line. And thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor Elkins and Council. Thank you for having us here this evening. My name is Ann Schilling. I'm a watershed team leader with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, and I act as a liaison between the sewer district and 16 of our member communities in the Cuyahoga River subwatershed. Here with me today is Gregory Blatnick. He is a program manager in our engineering and construction department, and we are here to talk about the Southerly Tunnel and Consolidation Sewer Project. We are here specifically to request a work hour variance for the Southerly Tunnel Shaft 2 site located in the village of Newburgh Heights, just up the street on Washington Park Boulevard, and I'm sure you are well aware of that site. And I will hand it off to Greg to talk about the request as well as a status update on our project. So you can follow along in the printout, the presentation that we've included. And for those of you in the audience, it's in the back corner if you'd like one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Blatnick. As Ann said, I'm the program manager of construction commissioning for the sewer district. So I get to oversee our team and our contractors doing this project. So first, I want to do a little background introduction. I'm sure most of you have heard of this project already, but just a refresher on what this project is. So we will start on the first page with text here. This is the Southerly Tunnel and Consolidation Project. So this is part of our Project Clean Lake is consent order from federal government to minimize our combined sewer overflow to the river and the lake. This project specifically will reduce 760 million gallons of CSO to the Cuyahoga River. If you flip to the next page is the tunnel alignment. So this tunnel goes from the village of Cuyahoga Heights into Newburgh here, and then over to the city of Cleveland with 4 stops along the way. So here at Washington Park is what we call shafts number 2, SOTC number 2. As you look at the map, that is one of the receiving shafts there's flow that goes down that shaft, as well as the tunnel cuts through it. And that is the site over at Washington Park that we're talking about. Continuing on through our presentation, the next page is a picture of the tunnel during construction. A lot of people do not know what the tunnels look like. So this shows you the rail system. There's utilities that go through there during construction. This supplies power to the tunnel boring machine. This supplies ventilation to the workers down there, the lighting, so everyone can see what's going on and work in a safe environment. Continuing on to the next site is the Washington Park site layout. There is a temporary lane closure that should be notified on Washington Park Boulevard, as well as if you've driven through there, you see we've already started the site prep work over there, installing the fence, doing some of the ground clearing, some of the initial sewer excavation for the near surface work. There will be additional parking over there as part of the improvements to the park that will be permanent. And some other concrete structures, as well as the main tunnel dewatering or tunnel mining shaft. Any questions so far? All right, that's good. Moving on is the Southerly Tunnel construction schedule. This is a long project. It's actually 2 separate projects. So the blue bar is the tunnel work itself. And if you see in there, the work within Newburgh Heights is a 36-month construction started this past October with the site clearing and goes through October 27 to do the main shaft, as well as some of the other sewer and structure work in there. The second part of that bar, the yellow bar there, is the tunnel dewatering pump station that will take place in Cuyahoga Heights. That is the pumping facility that will actually drain the water out of the storage tunnel and send it over to the Southerly Wastewater Treatment Center for treatment. The end of the tunnel construction is into 2028, but we're hoping to maintain that schedule, if not improve upon it, which is kind of the main point of this noise variance that we're requesting right now. So maintain this schedule and work on improving it to minimize disruptions. So moving on, what is being requested? So the first bullet point there, 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, with occasional Saturdays for the slurry wall installation. We'll talk about what slurry wall is next. But that will happen from between May of 25 to September 25. Now that is not the full time frame. These requests are blanketed, but will only be used as needed. There are a lot of unknowns whenever you put a shovel into a ground. And specifically this site, we've already realized it with some of our initial prep work. And so depending on what we hit, the contractor will need the extra time to maintain the schedule and minimize the disturbance in the area. So the request is Monday through Friday, occasional Saturdays, 24 hours. That is not the full time frame there. Will be as needed and will be minimized to only the needed parts. The second part of the request is 6 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, and occasional Saturdays. And that's for the shaft excavation. That is the main shaft that goes through the site there. The concrete work there, which is December through April, and then other concrete structures. As I mentioned, there's other diversion structures and sewer lines that have to go through that site. Again, this work is not guaranteed to be in those hours or those extended hours. It'll be as needed, but it's very important with the concrete work. And some of these are 1,000-yard concrete pours. That's a lot of trucks, a lot of concrete, that you get that done in one continuous pour for structural reasons and quality control reasons. So that is the request for the additional hours, is to maintain that high quality construction that we expect on the sewer district projects. Some of the site impacts with these longer hours would be vehicle safety, beeping. We've all heard trucks backing up, that beeping noise. There will be occasional beeping. Some of the crane operations, to lift, material from the bottom of the shaft up to the surface. Slurry plant operations, there will be an on-site plant there, to do some of the slurry. Again, we'll talk about here in a second. And then some night shift lighting. We need, some light to be able to see where the work is going. As I mentioned already, the extended hours will be needed to complete specific tasks that started earlier that day and not consistent, right? So if they work runs a little long, like the concrete pours, they will only be used as needed. And no dump trucks or concrete trucks will be entering or leaving site between 7 PM and 7 AM. That is a hard constraint within our contract, and one thing that the contractor knows. So there will be no heavy truck traffic leaving the site during these extended hours. It'll be personal vehicles of workers leaving and entering the site. Questions so far?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the night shift lighting. Is that, I'm assuming that's in the park itself only?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have a picture here of an example from other projects. This is our 6th of 7 large tunnels part of Project Clean Lake. We've done these shafts throughout the area with this contractor specifically on other projects. So they are very aware of site requirements and noise requirements and light requirements. So this will only be on site directed at their work.
Thank you.
Moving on to the slurry wall installation slide. So slurry wall, this work will be between May of 25 to September 25. This is a method to provide structural support and prevent water from entering the excavation, right? This is a deep excavation, 160 plus feet. There is very special techniques to support the dirt that will remain on site. And that's what slurry wall installation. So there are cranes, there's hydro mills, and there's an on-site slurry production plant. Slurry is a more or less watery, very watery cement. Added a chemical called bentonite that will kind of solidify the ground and hold that excavation open while they finish the mining down for the supportive excavation.
I have a question.
Yes.
What kind of noise can we expect with this slurry wall?
It would be with the slurry plant will be a low hum of some motors general running is the main noise there. The cranes will have, if they do have to move, and these are bigger cranes, so once they set up they don't move a whole lot, but if they do move there will be that safety beeping of them backing up or anything like that.
Cranes and beeping trucks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
No,
6 days a week.
It says from 6 AM to 12 AM, Monday through Friday,
occasional Saturdays.
and occasional Saturdays.
Yeah.
And are you gonna notify the village when you're gonna be working 24 hours or no?
There's
You're
no.
just gonna be there when you're there.
There's no current plans for notification because it's going to kind of happen, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're going to say, hey, I need, another 4 hours or 5 hours to finish work to get that specific installation completed. So there's not a whole lot of advance warning. It's as needed.
I think the trade-off that we're kind of being given with offering a variance, and correct me if I'm wrong, is considering a variance. I shouldn't say offering, considering, because it's ultimately council's decision, is by not allowing for the variance and the additional work hours when needed, we're extending how long they're going to be here to work anyway. So it's an inconvenience. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off or keeping the Band-Aid on for an extra year, if that makes
But we're
sense.
looking at like 6 months of,
It's a lot longer.
Yeah,
nonstop,
it's years.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
So, but let's, no, I understand that. I'm just trying to use an
people that
example.
live there probably are not seeing that.
Well, I live
Yeah.
fairly close to it, but let's let them finish and then ask our questions as we go.
Okay.
And these are all valuable questions, and
No, it's a good question,
Yeah.
but your explanation is right. If we do stay within normal working hours, that will extend the duration past what is currently shown in this presentation. Moving on to the shaft excavation slide. This is from October of 25 through December of 25. Again, this is the work within the shaft to dig down to the tunnel elevation. This work is within the shaft, so any excavator type work is down in the shaft, kind of contained within that. And as they go deeper, that's 160 plus feet deep there. There will again be a crane lifting a bucket up and placing the spoils on the surface and then lowering it back down, but there's no movement, there's no truck movement during that time. It's all down in the shaft with the excavator. So moving on to why the special permit is needed. As we've mentioned, it will maintain that shorter construction impact without the extended hours. The length, the duration of the construction work will be longer. It minimizes construction risk. As I mentioned, the concrete work needs to be continuous. If it stops, there are potential quality risks and construction risks during that time. And to ensure we meet the consent decree requirements. So to make sure we have that fully operational tunnel by the end of 2030, we need to make sure we stay on schedule because there is not a lot of wiggle room between the tunnel and the dewatering pump station projects. So what is being done to minimize some of these impacts? As we mentioned before, the heavy trucking will not be outside between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Meeting the village's requirements as well as our contractual requirements. There is site fencing, we've seen it up there already, that has some privacy and sound barriers. So this sound barrier fabric does create a 26 decibel reduction in noise, which essentially, what is 26 decibel? Will take a jet engine down to the sound of a hairdryer. So that is a substantial noise reduction with the sound barrier that's being installed. All the truck traffic has to come and go to the north. That was a requirement placed early on in this construction. There is dust control measures, more vigorous street sweeping. They will run upwards of 3 street sweepers continually around the site during the excavation within normal work hours. And then minimal lighting used during night shifts. They are aware that fugitive light outside the site can be a nuisance, so they make sure to aim their light plants at the work and not out in the environment. And so what does that look like? I think that was a question earlier. That last picture there is a picture over on the previous tunnel job that we're still working on, but the main mining is complete. This is the main mining site, but just as kind of a showing of the light, how they directed down at their work. This site here in the village here will not be this big, so you do not have that tail light. It is mainly just at the main shaft light, but just wanted a visualization of what some of the night lighting would look like. So with that, thank you all. Are there any other questions while I'm up here?
Mr. Chief Majoy?
Just for council's sake, these guys have been really good in terms of transparency and keeping us in the loop with weekly progress reports and everything that they've said they're going to do, they've done. From the police department standpoint, we have not received any complaints at all with everything that's going down there, with the exception of a food truck that caught fire last week and they didn't serve us any food out of the thing. But other than that, we were good. In cases like this, they had sent out an email asking our position on this. I have no objection. My only thing that I would add as a caveat, and that is that my recommendation is that we allow the variance. I'm not a voting member clearly, but I think that we should leave it open-ended. If it becomes a problem, I think that we can approach the folks and say, hey, listen, this is a problem, this is a problem, and then seek a solution without having to come back to council right away so they can keep moving forward. That would be my recommendation.
Till 2027?
The main, tunnel project goes till 2027. The work goes on and off at different locations.
And you want to go 24 hours, 5 days a week through 2027?
The 24 hours work is limited to, here, let me pull up my my table so I don't misquote myself. Thank you. May through September during the slurry wall installation, and that's Monday through Friday with occasional Saturdays.
I have a question about weather. Do you work in all weather, inclement weather as well?
As much as possible. There are certain limitations, heavy storms, lightning, freezing temperatures. If it gets way too cold, it's hard for some of those large diesel engines to run in cold weather. But they are on a tight schedule and they work as much as possible.
What is a hydro mill?
It is, good question. It is an attachment that goes onto a crane that mills or drills, I guess, for a lack of a better term, certain soil types. So as they go down for their installation of the slurry wall, it grinds up the rock as it goes down and collects all that back up at the surface.
So is this gonna be a lot of noise from, midnight to 7, whatever, for the people that live over there?
We are doing our best to minimize the noise. The work outside those hours are usually a small hum of a diesel engine, usually from like a concrete pumper truck or a crane like that. But it's not going to be any heavy jackhammering. There's no pile driving on site. A lot of people think of those heavy vibration or pile driving. There's none of that work on this project.
I mean, I know I hear the trucks behind my house beep, 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 beep at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I don't want those people that live over there to have to listen to that all night long, so.
So like I said, none of the heavy trucking happens in
Yeah.
those extended hours, right? This is all kind of on-site type work.
But you did say there would be some.
If
truck-
a crane has
yeah.
to move, yes, there may be
Yeah.
potential for some of that beeping.
Chief Higgs, do you have any?
Just that during the extended work hours, especially when you're in the shed, you can have confined space crew on scene for that.
Yes, the contractor is well educated in their confined space. They deal with a lot of confined space with us specifically. And so, yes, they have all their staff is trained and they have their special rescue personnel there.
Just want to set up spot that we can fix, we could enter, so we can have that on our plan for emergency there.
Yes, sir.
And then you're closing the southbound lane next week. I'll have that email for that.
Yes,
So then that's going to be the lane for the truck, right?
correct.
And then we'll turn it that loop and go back.
Yes, sir.
And make that turn, who's going to be there directing, so no one gets, we won't have an accident.
The contractor will have flaggers out there to make sure truck traffic coming on and off site is maintained. So.
Sorry, I didn't hit my mic.
The
I
reason
heard.
we're sticklers about the mic is because people are watching at home. That way they can hear us.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dunn?
I have questions.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna sound like I don't want you guys in the village. It's not true. I applaud the project. However, I'm gonna challenge some of your information.
Yes, sir.
All right, so is it your intent to mirror the Cuyahoga Heights permit that was provided?
Can I ask you what do you mean by mirror?
Are you gonna ask for the same dates for the same reasons?
It is similar, so we did request a variance on the hours over there for the shaft work that's going on over there. They have some extended hours based on some of the different work in the Cuyahoga Heights being the main mining shaft. So when they actually go to start the TBM over there, all the tunnel spoils are discharged at that site. So their site is different than the site over here.
So I want to point out that we've already had issues with cement trucks leaving the wrong way and headed south on Washington Park Boulevard when this project first started. So our first bridge of communication was not good. I also want to point out that when you guys first presented this and we're going to ask for a little bit of noise latitude, I wasn't expecting 3 years of 24-hour a day, 6 days a week latitude. And what we are talking about is 3 summers, 3 falls, and 2 springs across this project that you're asking for the ability to do nighttime work. These people live in these homes. So when you've done this before,
in the other 6 or 7 projects? How many days of construction did you use the extended permit? A lot, a little, half, 20, 50? And I understand that there's issues with what you find. I'm talking about those ones where we already know what you found.
So I'm thinking back to the project Shoreline Storage Tunnel, which was the last one, the main mining that we just completed, right? And at that main mining site, which was in a neighborhood, was 24 hours, 5 days a week for 20 months. But that was the main mining shaft, right? We had no noise complaints there. Work like this is similar to the site that's currently up in Cleveland on the east side of 77. You may see some of the cranes up in the air. So far to date, we've had about 20 late nights and 6 months worth of work over there.
How much noise is generated at the work site generally? In decibels, do you know?
I do not know decibel
Is
readings.
that information available at some point? Somebody should be monitoring.
We could gain that information, sure.
Okay. Do you know what the NIOSH limits are for the work site?
I don't know them off the top of my head.
Okay.
The
I can
contractors,
tell you, it's 85 decibels across 8 hours. Never over 100 decibels ever. For reference, NIOSH says a jet engine is generally considered 160 decibels. A hair dryer is generally considered a 90 decibel device. So your 26 decibel screen is supposed to run out 70 decibels of difference. So I don't like that sales point that you make. That wasn't a question. I'm just letting you know.
fair enough.
Do you know how close you are to the homes, the nearest homes, roughly?
On the north side, it's about 340 feet.
Okay. Your noise loss is 20 decibels across 750 feet. Not very much. They're gonna experience a lot of noise. What are the consequences if you guys violate the conditions of the permit?
If we get a variance here,
If we grant the variance, what are gonna be the conditions of violating the terms of the variance?
if there are complaints, we will shut down the work. We will work with whatever parties necessary to address whatever complaints. And we will address it as needed. There,
Not real happy about the numbers that we're dealing with here. That's a lot of noise for a lot of days.
as I said, won't be continuous. It is as needed, but I can't lock down specific dates.
I
If you
realize that.
understand.
I realize that. All right, that's it for me, I think.
Council, any other questions?
Make a comment.
Microphone, please.
If we don't give the variance, then we're going to have the same noise, the same, all of this, everything going, all same construction, just for much longer. So it's due, and for the people that live there, and I know I'm not as affected as you are, and I do know you're gonna be right there in the middle of it. I really understand that. But, I mean, the choice is, do you want it for a shorter period of time or an extra year?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. And do you have what would be the potential estimated reduction in length of the project by granting the variance? Have you, and in any other your experiences, have you been able to quantify that?
No, because we've generally been able to get variances. I could estimate that it would be probably 18 to 24 months longer if we run into issues and do not have the variance.
If I can make a statement, Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure the record is clear. What we're talking about is codified ordinance 55505, which is the general offense noise ordinance. That ordinance has a provision in it wherein the safety director, the mayor, can issue a special permit with approval of council. So you're really not granting a variance per se, you're granting a special permit. And when I looked at the packet that was provided to council, it's pretty clear that they had a problem in Cuyahoga Heights because they amended it. So you always have, you have the power to approve it tonight, if you so choose, and then down the road, you can revoke it. Or seek other concessions from the sewer district in order to make it continuous. That's up to you. You control it.
I have a question. We do love our neighbors to the north, but when you said we are approximately, I believe you said we're approximately 350 feet to, for persons to the north. Do you know how far you are for persons to the south, which would be Newburgh? North is Cleveland.
My guess is probably double that.
Yeah, so the main shaft is on that north corner, which would be the
Right.
closest residence, so I'm gonna say further than 340 feet. I did not measure.
It actually, Bill just said it was about 750 feet, I think.
748 feet, and
Yeah.
there's porch.
Yep.
Thank you.
Would that be, Mrs. Freebies?
Probably Mr. Soa's or close to it.
Oh, all right. I don't, you're kind of like,
Yeah, it's an angle.
it's at an angle then.
Which is why my record.
I think it's important to know how the residents feel about this. They're the ones that have to live through it. You know,
I don't disagree with it's important to know how the residents feel, but and I'm not advocating either way here. That's why the sewer district, they're here is to present. But that's what we are here for. We are elected representatives of the residents and it's our
I
job
know, but
to
I
express.
don't know how they feel about this. There's been nothing.
Well, I'm right there. Mr. Soa and I are neighbors. I am right there. I've not heard anything yet. I'm not saying I won't, but I have not heard anything from you guys. And if I do, I will certainly be on the phone with the mayor.
I have her number blocked. Okay, so council, this is currently under purchases and approvals at the end of the meeting for consideration, or we can move it and take this up now so that the representatives of the sewer district can know where the council stands on issuance of the special permit. What is your pleasure? Council Pro Tem? Microphones?
I am okay with doing it now out of order.
Okay. Is there any objection to doing it now out of order? Okay. So is there a motion for an approval to the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District on the, I'm gonna just use the abbreviation, SOTC 2 revised 1 work hours special permit? Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is tied 2-2. I break ties. I'm going to break the tie in favor of the permit. However, trusting my colleagues, we step one foot outside of what we talked about here tonight. We will revoke the permit. We'll have the conversation again.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay,
council.
thank you.
Thank you, council.
Okay, can I have a motion to enter into executive session for the discussion of personnel issues to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official pending potential litigation and property acquisitions if necessary?
So moved.
second,
Moved and seconded. I'm gonna call the roll. Ms. Gersh?
Yes.
Mrs. Grayora,
Yes.
Mrs. Cray,
Yes,
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Okay, we are going. Council is going to relocate to the small conference room. We actually are in the works of getting a project done here very soon in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be able to start using the large conference room for executive session, which should make it shorter. But we'll be back in probably 15-20 minutes, so please stay with us. Sewer District, you guys are welcome to hit the road, so. And let me know, are you gonna need something in writing from me? How do you want to? Never mind, I'm being told yes, do it in writing, so. Okay, can I have a motion for council to exit executive session and resume regular session?
So moved?
Second,
I'm going to call the roll. Ms. Gersh, Mrs. Greora,
Yes.
Mrs. Cray,
yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
We are back in regular session at 7:19 PM. Thank you, Chief. Can I have a motion for the approval of the November 19th, 2024 regular session of council meeting minutes, the December 3rd, let me ask council this question. Do you want to do these individually or do you want to do them as a group?
Group,
Group.
Okay, let me read them all. Get a motion for the approval of the November 19th, 2024 regular session of council meeting minutes, the December 3rd, 2024 regular session of council meeting minutes, the December 30th, 2024 special session of council meeting minutes, the January 21st, 2025 regular session of council meeting minutes, the February 4th, 2025 regular session of council meeting minutes, the March 4th, 2025 regular session of council meeting minutes, the March 13th, 2025 special council session of council meeting minutes, and the March 13th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting minutes. Is there a motion approving?
So moved?
Is there a
Second.
second? Moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to legislation, council has before them ordinance 2025-17 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. Before I read the ordinance, let me clarify. What I actually would like to do is hold this. I want to read and approve the legislation approving the bids for the projects before we come back to this one, because this is actually for a project that needs to be approved before we approve engineering and whatnot, or inspection services for it.
so we're doing it out of order.
We're doing it out of order. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna hold off on A. Council has before them ordinance 2025-18 presented for first reading. Council, would you like me to read the ordinance?
Mayor, we'd like to postpone this ordinance and keep it on first reading, so it comes up again on the May meeting when all members are present.
No, we want to make it go to second reading. This is a first reading. So it can
So
go-
you want me to read the ordinance?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, read it.
Council 2025-18 is presented for first reading, an ordinance establishing the rate of pay and remuneration for the position of full-time mayor and safety director commencing January 1st, 2028. Ordinance 2025-18 is placed on first reading. Council has before them resolution 25-06 presented for second reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the Village of Newburgh Heights and the Newburgh Heights Professional Firefighters, IAFF Local 5432, relative to the terms and conditions of employment for full-time firefighters the period of January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026 in the Village of Newburgh Heights and declaring an emergency. Council, we will have the final contract with all the i's dotted and the t's crossed and all the changes that have been flying back and forth for months now. We'll have that to you at some point this week or early next week. We'll schedule a special meeting, give you guys a few days to review that, sit down, have the conversation, and then you can determine how you'd like to vote on that contract. But we are in agreement, unless I'm mistaken, Chief, on all terms with the firefighters union. Yep. All right, so resolution 25-06 is placed on second reading. Council has before them resolution 25-09 presented for, and actually this is going to be the same thing. We're gonna hold off and agree to this, or potentially agree to this after we accept the bids. Council resolution 25-10 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. A resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT road salt contracts awarded in 2025 and declaring an emergency. Yep.
Is this the only way to get road salt is through ODOT or?
No, we can actually go out on our own and do it on our own. It's, we actually did this at one point a few years back. It ends up being substantially more expensive and we still run into the same constraints of availability for salt. What I've instructed the service department to do this year, I think they started behaving as if every year was going to be a mild year. So they kept dropping the tonnage of salt that we would get. So I've instructed them for this coming year, we only bought 200 tons of salt this past winter. 250 would have been enough. It would have been, it would have got us through the winter. So what we basically decided on, and once we get a new service director in here, we're likely looking at an order of 300 tons. So we'll have a cushion in case next winter is as bad as this winter. Not that this winter was terrible, but it was a real winter. So we're going to build some buffer in. The good thing is, even if we don't use all 300 of those tons, we are allowed to continue to store that on their site for a small storage fee. So
Stored in our salt shed.
it's not big enough, yeah, to store. And it's
Well, I
big.
mean, we're gonna use up most of it.
Correct, right. So are there any other questions about that? Okay.
Lost my place here. Oh, sorry. Mayor, I move that resolution 25-10 be adopted, rules suspended, and resolution 25-10 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Okay, roll call and suspension of rules. Ms. Gersh,
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero,
Yes.
Mrs. Cray,
yes,
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt, Ms. Gersh,
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero,
Yes.
Mrs. Cray,
yes,
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Resolution 25-10 is adopted. Okay, council has before them resolution 25-11 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. Council, are there questions about how the bids were done or what the bids were? Anything like that? Okay,
Why is there two different roads?
two different projects.
Yeah.
They're on the same street, but they're technically two different projects. Go ahead, Jim.
If I may, we're calling it Part A and Part B. One's a water main and one is all the rest of the project. Cleveland Water agrees to pay 100% of the cost to install the water main if you bid it out as a separate project. If you do not bid it out as a separate project, they only pay you a set amount per linear foot, which isn't enough to cover the full cost. So by doing it with two projects, you will get 100% of the money back from Cleveland.
good job, yes.
Thank you, Jim.
That was very good. Thank you.
Okay, council has before them resolution 25-11, a resolution awarding the project and accepting Fabrizi Trucking and Paving for construction of the East 26th Street Sewer Separation Project and authorizing expenditures for construction in an amount not to exceed $1,153,848 and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that resolution 25-11 be adopted, rules suspended, and resolution 25-11 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Roll call on suspension of rules, Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Guerrero.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray,
yes,
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt, Ms. Gersh,
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero,
Yes.
Mrs. Cray,
yes,
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Resolution 25-11 is adopted. Council has before them resolution 25-12 presented for suspension of rules. A resolution awarding the project and accepting for Breezy Trucking and Paving for construction of the East 26th Street Water Main Replacement Project and authorizing expenditures for construction in an amount not to exceed $517,503 and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that resolution 25-12 be adopted, rules suspended, and that resolution 25-12 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Roll call and suspension of rules. Mrs. Gersh. Mrs. Grayar.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt. Ms. Gersh.
Yes.
Mrs. Grayar.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
Yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Resolution 25-12 is adopted. Council has before them Resolution 25-13 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. Are there any questions? Okay. A resolution proclaiming April 2025 Child Abuse Prevention Month and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that resolution 25-13 be adopted, rules suspended, and that 25-13 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Roll call and suspension of rules. Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Grayara.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt. Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Grayora.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
Yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Resolution 25-13 is adopted. Council has before them Resolution 25-14 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. A resolution proclaiming April 2025, as the month of the military child and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that resolution 25-14 be adopted, rules suspended, and that 25-14 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Roll call on suspension of rules. Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Grayara.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt. Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Grayara.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
Yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Resolution 25-14 is adopted. Council has before them, I'm gonna need these actually.
17 and 09.
No, oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. Rewinding to the inspection ordinances. Hold on. I need a payroll resolution is what I need. So the reason we wanted to move these was to make sure that obviously the projects themselves were approved. So the first ordinance 2025-17 is for services as provided in addition to the regular engineering services and what that they would do for a project like this in assisting QCI as our inspector, because in the end, as our engineer for the village, OHM will have to make certain decisions that QCI does not have the legal authority to make. So this is a supplemental part of that inspection that gives us additional coverage. Any questions about that?
And 09?
17.
17.
Yeah. Okay. Council has before them ordinance 2025-17 presented for suspension rules and adoption. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a letter agreement with OHM Advisors for supplemental engineering services in connection with the East 26th Street Sewer Separation Project in an amount not to exceed $26,000 and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 2025-17 be adopted, rules suspended, and 2025-17 be placed on.
Second,
Roll call and suspension of rules. Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Grayara.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt. Ms. Gersh. Mrs. Grayara.
Yes.
Mrs. Cray.
Yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-17 is adopted. Council has before them resolution 25-09 presented for suspension of rules. This is the actual oversight and inspection of the project itself. Are there any questions?
Where is the village that's committed to infrastructure improvements?
Oh.
41st Street?
Thank you. That should be East 26th Street. Thank you for pointing out before I read the ordinance. Just. Okay, any other questions?
Is that a Scrivener's error?
It is indeed. Okay, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Quality Control Inspection, Inc., QCI, to perform inspection services in connection with the East 26th Street project and declaring an emergency. No, because it was,
It's a script.
yeah, it was corrected before we read it.
Mayor, I move that resolution 25-09 be adopted, rules suspended, and that resolution 25-09 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Roll call and suspension of rules. Ms. Gersh?
Yeah.
Mrs. Grayorah?
Yes.
Mrs. Cray?
yes.
Mr. Dunman?
Yes.
Roll call to adopt. Ms. Gersh? Mrs. Grayorah?
Yes.
Mrs. Cray?
Yes.
Mr. Dunman?
Yes.
Resolution 25-09 is adopted. All right, now I'm gonna get to payroll resolutions. 4652, 4653, and 4654. Council has before them payroll resolution 4652, February 2025 disbursements, a resolution authorizing and directing the payment of certain bills, be it resolved by the council of the village of Newburgh Heights of Ohio, the following bills be paid and the same are hereby approved, and the fiscal officer and mayor are hereby respectfully authorized to draw their warrants and checks for payment of said bills as set forth on the following pages in the total amount of $754,892.32 and declaring an emergency. Council has before them payroll resolution 4653 entitled Employee Payroll Period Ending 3/1/2025 and paid 3/7/2025. A resolution authorizing and directing the payment of certain bills, be it resolved by the council of the village of Newburgh Heights of Ohio that the following bills be paid and the same are hereby approved, and the fiscal officer and mayor are hereby respectfully authorized to draw their warrants and checks for payment of said bills as set forth in the following pages in the total amount of $89,160.54 and declaring an emergency. And council has before them payroll resolution 4654 entitled Employee Payroll Period Ending March 15th, 2025, paid March 21st, 2025. A resolution authorizing and directing the payment of certain bills, be it resolved by the council of the village of Newburgh Heights of Ohio that the following bills be paid and the same are hereby approved, and the fiscal officer and mayor are hereby respectfully authorized to draw their warrants and checks for payment of said bills as set forth on the following pages in the total amount of $107,914.38 and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that payroll resolutions 4652, 4653, 4654 be adopted, rules suspended, and that payroll resolutions 4652, 4653, 4654 be placed on their first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second,
Roll call on the suspension of rules. Ms. Gersh.
Yeah.
Mrs. Grayor.
Yes.
Mrs. Craig.
yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Roll call to adopt. Ms. Gersh.
Yeah.
Mrs. Grayor.
Yes.
Mrs. Craig.
Yes.
Mr. Dunman.
Yes.
Payroll resolution 4652, 4653, and 4654 have been adopted. Okay, moving on to reports. Councilwoman Gersh, the floor is yours.
I have nothing at this time. Oh, I take that back. Is it too late to add something to purchases and approvals?
Yep. What would you like to add?
The movie night.
Do we know?
I've just had some issues. I had to fill out all kinds of paperwork. It's not like we never worked with them before.
Sure.
And so then I found out that, the movie was $550, and then to rent the movie is another $30, and then whatever we're planning on spending. So it's kind of gonna go over our budget for the year for the movie nights. So we might have to cut the second movie out
Okay.
in September.
What is the, do you know,
I'm thinking, right now at this point, $700,
$700, what is the name of the company?
a Swank.
Swank.
Mhm.
Will that be K?
SWANK.
Okay, so, we're gonna add under, when we get to purchase approval, we'll add letter K, Councilwoman,
Got it.
introduced by Councilwoman
Thank
Gerst.
you.
Approval of $700 to Swank, for movie night. Okay,
Thank you.
Mrs. Grayora, floor is yours.
I would just like to share that council has their own phone number now, and any resident who wants to attend any of the events can call 216-641-2123 to register. I also have been in contact with our liaison for the air pollution meetings we've been having. We're going to have a meeting where we will share that information coming up either in April or May. If you are interested, please call that number and let us know so you can be notified. Again, it's 641-2123. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cray, the floor is yours. Microphone, please.
First, I was just gonna ask a question. Are we done paying Gertrude Heights? That's 75,000 from the former mayor. That's 75,000 a month to make up for that.
We have one payment of 120,000 left.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought it was soon.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next, the mailers will be dropped this week. This is for the Easter egg hunt. So, if you get it, you want to register a grandchild. That is who this is for children, grandchildren of residents and employees. On the back, and it has the phone number. Again, it's the 641-2123. Please, if you call that number, leave your name, leave your phone number. If you don't leave a phone number, we cannot get back to you. This is blah, blah, blah. Give me a call. Well, I don't know, Mr. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm asking everybody, you're gonna call that number, just please leave your phone number with your name. The other side is our upcoming events for the village. It's through July, maybe August, and we'll have another one for the end of the year. But it gives you an idea of some of the dates we have. We have Earth Day coming up on April 22nd. We have a movie night over at First Tee coming up on April 25th. May 3rd, we are having a shred day. So for those of you who have done your taxes and still have a lot of paper left, decide what you want and then bring them over on May 3rd to the parking lot here between 9 and noon. And those are the ones that I think are important for right now. But hold on to it because it has the information. And one more thing, something near and dear to my heart. April is Donate Life Month. If you do not have the donor heart on your driver's license and you would like to, let me know. I can show you how to do it on your own. I mean, 31 years ago, family donated their child's heart for me. 21 years ago, my sister donated a kidney. This stuff works. You can hear, I've heard all the information about how it doesn't work. A walking, talking billboard. Donation actually works. So if you want more information, call me. I'm always available. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Dunman, the floor is yours.
I just wanted to mention that council phone number 641-2123, you have to leave a voice message. Nobody's gonna answer the phone for you. Leave a message, leave your number, leave the information so we can understand what it is. Just a reminder. Just real quick, I just wanted to say, what a great time it is to live in the village. This is the beginning of a significant visible transformation in the village. It's a great time. Pay attention, see what's going on. That's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I have a number of items I'd like to update the residents, the public about. So some of you may have seen a story in the neighborhood news regarding the relocation of the Garfield Heights Municipal Court to the Village of Newburgh Heights. That is a process that is going to take probably a few months, because as much as we would like to just say, sure, let's do it. What I can tell you is the Garfield Heights, the city of Garfield Heights is on board with the move. The Village of Newburgh Heights Administration and Council is on board with the move. But what really matters is the state of Ohio legislature going to be on board with the move? They have to actually approve it in legislation. Now, it is currently being worked on in Columbus. We expect, so you may have heard today that the Ohio House introduced their state budget for the next 2 years. The Ohio Senate will also be introducing a state budget. One of the lines in that state budget is going to be moving the court from Garfield Heights to Newburgh Heights. Senator Manning, who is the head of the Judiciary Committee, is going to introduce it, and it is going to be co-sponsored by our State Senator Jerry Serino, as well as, and then we're told in the House it'll be picked up by our state representative and our and Garfield's state representative. So we expect to have the state reps are both Democrats, the state senators are both Republicans. We expect, and they have told me we have their support. What somebody else decides to do in the legislature, it'd be hard to say. That has to be passed and should be passed. I think it's by July 3rd. So we will know officially if legally the Garfield Heights Court is going to become the Newburgh Heights Court. What happens if the legislature says yes? Well, then we start begging people for money because it's going to cost money to build a building. We're already working on that. We actually expect to get a fair amount of resources to cover a substantial portion of this. What we will then also do is start working with bond counsel and legal counsel to find the revenue streams from banks or investment firms or whatever it be. It'll be a building about probably half the size of this building. So if you'll take this building ideally, and then you'll cut the police department portion of it off the building, so it'll be less expensive in dollar for dollar terms, real dollar terms, than what it cost to build this building. Now, it's going to be more than this building because it's 2025 and not 2017, and COVID and tariffs and all of that stuff are going to have an impact. So we expect to, by the end of this year, to have all of the legal stuff in place. It requires a process for what's called an RFP, or request for proposal, bids, all of that stuff. We have a whole evaluation process that we're required to follow by state law. We will follow those, just like we did with this building, just like we did with the fire station. We will select a builder, and we expect that at this time next year, a shovel will go in the ground. And by the end of 26, there will no longer be a Garfield Heights Municipal Court. There will be a Newburgh Heights Municipal Court that will represent Brecksville, Independence, Walton Hills, Valley View, Newburgh Heights, Cuyahoga Heights, Garfield Heights, and Maple Heights. So it'll be the exact same jurisdiction it is today, except it'll be located here, and those tax dollars will come here as opposed to going to Garfield. that's an update on the court relocation. Kathleen and I last week attended the Auditor State's Local Government Services Conference. My focus was more on financing, investment, stuff like that. They hold a whole host of from brand new elected official to somebody that's been in office for 20 years. Time frame. So there's all kinds of skill levels, all kinds of disciplines. There's accounting, there's public records. Kathleen attended and updated her public records training at the hearing. I am strongly encouraging council next year. It's a 2.5 day conference. There's plenty to do. Take the 2.5 days, go to Columbus. You have plenty of notice. Usually sometime in January, the calendar comes out. You can, and by the way, you don't have to take the classes you signed up for. If something else looks like it's interesting, you can switch. Most classes are about an hour long. You sit in class for about 40 minutes and then there's a Q&A. I strongly recommend taking that. You will learn as much from the people you're sitting at the lunch table with than you will in some of the classes.
You paying for it?
The village pays for it. So I strongly recommend attending. It really is. I've been going for years and I learned something new every single year. Council has the budget snapshot. Are there any questions about it? It is, you're seeing that it is in the red. That is not an uncommon occurrence early in the year. Some of that does still relate to the transition in photo enforcement companies from Gatso to our current company, SiteStream. Not my company. For the public and the folks that are looking, my company is not involved in running the village's traffic camera program. But some of the kinks have been worked out. Chief Majoy keeps me abreast of the actions he's taking because he is running the program on behalf of the village and council. So there's some work being done. We do expect that number will shrink and obviously we'll hit our target goals by the end of the year. Chief, you want to add to that at all?
I think you covered it well, Mayor. Just for council's sake, I am in communication with SiteStream sometimes 2-3 times a week. We monitor the activity, we monitor the statistical information. We are engaged. We have an ongoing contract with Municipal Collections of America. We sent the first 500 violations through to them last week. We stopped doing that several years ago. We're now getting judgment entries on people who failed to pay their violations, which is substantial. And it's for a long time, there were many motorists who were not being held accountable for speeding, and we're working to improve that. And so we're in the early stages, but everything is going really well at this point.
Thank you, Chief. On the note of photo enforcement, some of you may have seen news stories and news articles that are kind of a misrepresentation of what happened in Columbus last week. The state of Ohio adopted the transportation budget. In that budget, they banned traffic cameras for townships and counties. They cannot and are not allowed to ban traffic cameras for cities and villages. Even though the headlines all say that, they leave out that part. They say it later in the story, but Newburgh Heights' cameras have not been banned. Hunting Valley's cameras have not been banned. Gates Mills' cameras have not been banned. Parma Heights, Walton Hills, Lindale, none of those cameras have been banned. By the way, there's about 60 communities across Ohio using cameras now, and the number increases every day. So this is becoming less and less the exception and more the norm. So I wanted everybody to understand, you may have seen that news story. You may see it on social media somewhere. What the state of Ohio has done has not impacted Newburgh Heights in any way. There was a there's been a CIC meeting and a planning commission meeting that has approved the relocation of the corporate headquarters and the building and construction of a new building and warehouse and showroom to the village of a company called Paint Medics. They're currently located on the west side of Cleveland. They're bringing about 40 employees to the village. They are locating to the cleaned up site of the old Harvard heat treat, and there was like a small garage there. That's where that structure is being built. They of course have to submit plans and things like that, and they'll have to go through all the regular building process. But so we are getting a new corporate headquarters. That, just for the public's sake and knowledge, when the village bought that property, we had to environmentally clean it up. That is, a public entity cannot acquire contaminated property and leave it contaminated anymore. It used to be you could, not anymore. So when we bought it, we cleaned it up. So Paint Medics, new business, corporate headquarters, Harvard Avenue, between White Dove and Tom's Automotive. That vacant space there, that's where that's going. That's been approved. It's in process. Website. This is completely on me at this point. Every time I think I'm going to get a chance to dig in and get this finalized, the template's up. I just haven't had time to sit and go through it and give it the green light. I do intend to make it a priority over the next couple days, couple weeks to get this thing up. I'm trying. It's on me. I do apologize. Spring newsletter. Same thing. I want to get a newsletter out. We got one out last spring. I'd like to get another one out as we approach spring this year. I can already tell you, I see the leaves starting to come out of the trees and blossom, which means folks, you're going to have to get your lawnmowers out because I think the building department starts issuing citations at what, 4 inches, 6 inches? When it starts looking like, you know, a wild field in the Midwest that the buffalo roam through, it's probably too long. So, but we are going to try and get a newsletter out here soon. Any questions for me? That's my report.
Mayor, I have two. One is a comment. I've been told by a resident that the sign that was hit twice on Harvard and Washington Park Boulevard by the BP station has been fixed. I haven't personally seen it, but
Oh, you're talking about the Harvard sign? Yes, it's correct. It's been
think
fixed.
that's,
Yes,
that's wonderful.
the road sign.
Correct. And then the second one is westbound Harvard by Speedway. I had an opportunity to drive by the little
Island?
island. It appears to be in disrepair again.
Yes, somebody the other night decided to do about $25,000 damage to their own car and kill a couple trees in the process. So that, yeah, that did in fact happen.
May I ask, were they,
They drove away.
can we get a camera over there?
So the sign was there for almost 5 years and nobody touched it. And in the last year, 2 people have basically driven over where the sign would be. We did just get notice from the insurance company today on the payment of the replacement. Of course, that was, yes, the first one, the day after somebody else drove over.
So they hit it and drove off?
Yeah. They did leave a bumper. Yeah. Yes, because you don't need a plate in the front anymore.
Thank you, Mayor.
Wow.
And then, by the way, I do want to add, this is not 100% verified yet. However, there's no hunting in Newburgh Heights. So you cannot kill a deer fawn on the 8th hole of the golf course, gut it, and leave it there. Yes. So there is no hunting in Newburgh Heights. All right.
Was this bow and arrow or a gun?
We don't know. The part of it we know about is the dead deer. So please don't do that if you did. Moving on to the fiscal officer's report. Thank you, the fund cash report for February. Unexpended, I'm just gonna read the numbers real quick. Receipts for the month of February are $564,705.38. Disbursements for the month of February were $1,008,066, excuse me, that's year to date, $595,905.02. And the general fund number, 371,654 negative. Overall funds, however, are at $500,000, $506,399.92. Right, tax administrator report. In the month of March, the village brought in $99,533.68 in income taxes, which was $4,678.93 less than the same month last year, or a 4.49% decrease over the same month the year before, which is the first month so far this year we've had a decrease of anything. So far this year in income taxes, we're at $320,741.94. And then council has the Rumpke report in front of them. Any questions on the fiscal officer's reports? Okay, Chief Majoy, floor is yours. Chief Higgs?
Mayor, I'm gonna need and council, I'm gonna need a special council meeting the week of April 21st. I'll probably have 4 candidates. We're down. I've been working on it for the last month to get candidates. We've been through 15 candidates for the positions. I have another guy, another firefighter has been recruited away from us. He'll be going to North Ridgeville. And another firefighter probably going to be going to Bainbridge. So I'm gonna submit 4 names. I'm working to submit 4 names for that special council meeting week of 21st.
Chief, if it's okay with you and council, let's schedule that meeting, not right now, but we'll schedule that meeting. And then we'll put the fire department approval, contract approval on that agenda.
Thank you.
Mrs. Guerrero, does that work for you?
The week of the 21st? Can we pick it now, since we're all here?
Steve's not here.
Steve's pretty free in the evenings.
I'm fine with the 21st personally.
That would be.
Oh, you know what? I am not. I lied. I'm sorry. 22nd would work for me as well.
I have Earth Day, but depending on how many calls we get, 6:30. Is that what we're looking?
We go 6 if you want.
I'm hearing 6.
So April 22nd, 6 p.m.
Let Mr. Moran know.
Okay. Anything further, Chief?
No, that's all I have unless council has something for me.
One thing, you were saying that you were working with the person who is doing the food truck. Where are we with that? Go ahead.
So we've rescheduled, so we had our first inspection with them. They had several items they had to take care of. They contacted us yesterday to do a re-inspection this Friday. They said they got all the stuff taken care of. So we're going out for re-inspection for the food truck on Friday between 10 and noon. And then after that, he says he has everything done. If he does, a permit, operational permit will be given by the building department for the food truck.
And where are they allowed to, anywhere, or where are they going to
No.
physically be?
So they're gonna be physically be where you see it anchored right now by the Shell gas station. If they choose to move it anywhere else in the village, they were notified that they can, but they have to supply a permit. They gotta submit a permit to the building department. They're permitted to operate in Newburgh Heights, but they would have to, like, if they moved it somewhere in Newburgh Heights. If they go outside of Newburgh Heights, it's up to the fire department that has jurisdiction over that, wherever they're going. Like, for example, they might go down to the Independence Food Truck event. They gotta be inspected by Independence Fire. Our inspection is just for us in any event here. And
Thank
it doesn't move from Shell. If they move it from Shell and do it anywhere in the village, then they would have to submit a permit to operate at that new location.
Thank you, Chief.
If I could encourage council to consider researching and constructing some legislation, defining rules and use and et cetera of food trucks, whatnot, because it has actually been talked about amongst ourselves about, you know, a future festival, 250th anniversary of the country, if we're still here, things like that, having special vendors, et cetera. So-
Mayor, if I can comment on that, back in October of 2021, an ordinance was drafted and everything for food trucks. It never made it to council agenda. So I can forward you all that documentation. I got all the documentation. It never went to council. It got buried, so it never got done. So I can forward you that research that we did at that time. And you can have all that, plus all the stuff that I had to do for the inspection from the state of Ohio. I have all that put together, following the Ohio Fire Code, because we didn't have an ordinance at the time. So they'll be grandfathered. If you make any changes, they'll be grandfathered in because they already are approved. So, yeah, I'll forward that to council tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? Okay. Ms. Schickler?
You have my written report. It's been a busy couple of months. I would encourage anybody, if you're interested in applying for one of our maintenance grants, get your applications in. The larger one, we're starting to fill up on applications. We only have a couple of spots left. Any questions?
On that, for the larger one, if you don't have a contractor yet, but you know what the work's gonna be, and you have Heritage has been out, how do we apply so we don't lose that space?
You fill out the actual grant application, get that submitted, and that'll reserve your spot.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Hillary? Okay, so one of the things that will be on the agenda as we start in council, I want you to put this on your radar as we start talking about 2026 budget for 2020, after summer. The money for this, the larger home maintenance grant is gone. That was county money. So we need to determine whether or not we're going to continue to invest in our residents' homes through the use of the village's budget. So that's something that you're going to want to put on your radar and determine if you want to do that and how much we're going to do it for.
I'd like to ask Hillary, is it being well used?
Oh, yes.
So people really like it and they are using it.
Yep. And
It's a popular program.
Yes, and the variety of projects is good. We've got some interior remodeling going on, we've got some exterior stuff, so it's good.
Okay,
And you're gonna get at the, in the spring newsletter, you're gonna get, a smiling thumbs up face of one of our guests tonight, Mr. Soa, who took advantage of the grant, and had some excellent, concrete work done. We're gonna use his property as an example of some of the work you can done with a photo, so.
All right, very brief update. Thank you, council, for accepting Fabrizi. We'll start working with QCI and Fabrizi to get that project moving. That is scheduled to be done in 1 year, so it'll be done this construction season. The 20s, it's still hard weather, as you know. One day it's 70, the next day it's 30. So we're still waiting on weather, and we're also waiting on we'll just like I'm saying, the weather, the rain, just everything's a mess right now. And once that's all figured out, though, hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have a better idea of when they're coming back into town and getting going. And that's all I have.
They're coming back into town before the next meeting to finish that project, right?
I hope so.
They do.
No.
No.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's no hoping. That project needs to be there, like, the next meeting's 30 days away.
Okay.
So the idea that they're not coming back until then is not, we'll have a conversation tomorrow about that.
We will. Thank you.
Because it's not acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions, further questions for Jim? Okay. Moving on to purchases and approvals introduced by the fiscal officer. Kind of a motion for the approval of the February 2025 fund cash report.
So moved?
Second,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the 3-year Alad Tech Fire Department scheduling software renewal at a cost not to exceed $12,631? Chief, do you want to add anything to this?
No, this is a program we've been using. We went the 3-year deal to try to save some money, for the yearly cost.
So moved?
second,
Wait, it's a 3-year deal that cost you $12,000.
The total, all 3 years total. No, it's,
So it's 4,000.
right, right. Yep. Moved by Mrs. Guerrero, seconded by Mr. Dunman. I know there was a couple that said yes at the same time, so my apologies. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Council has before them an ordinance, motion for approval. Can I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Vincent Brandon Cangelosi to the position of full-time patrolman?
So
Second.
moved?
oh, sorry,
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have the approval for or a motion for the approval to place the 2008 Chevy Impala for sale on the Gov Deals website with all proceeds to be deposited in the Law Enforcement Fund 283.
So moved?
second,
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the reappointment of Terry Miller to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the term expiring January 1st, 2030?
So moved?
second,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Jason Kurkowski to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the term expiring January 1st, 2028?
So,
Jason and his wife own a home at the end of 41st Street, almost on Bridgeview, couple doors up. They've been residents for 15, 18 years, something like that.
so moved?
second,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I think his resume was in your packet, right?
yes,
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. Council has before them a motion for the reappointment of Christine Smetana to the Planning Commission for the term expiring January 1st, 2030.
So moved?
second,
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Could I have a motion for the approval of the Newburgh Heights Police Department to enter into the MOU memorandum of understanding for participation in the Southwest Enforcement Bureau.
I have a
South-
question. I'm sorry. I have a
Go.
question for Chief Majoy. Is there a cost to that, sir?
Yeah, council approved that cost at a meeting in February. I believe it's $12,500.
Oh, so this is just following that.
Right, this is the MOU for us to physically join that. It's our intention to assign one officer to that, just for starters, and then at some point a second. It's not a full-time commitment. They train like once a month or something like that, but this gives us basically our own SWAT team. We've been using county SWAT for the last couple of years. But they do more than that if we have a high risk warrant or some other things. Plus, there's an abundance of training and stuff for our personnel. So it's a good move for the village. We've been wanting to do this for a while. We just weren't ready, but now we're ready.
All right, thank you.
What it says, they'll outfit the officers who are training.
They'll get a level 3 tactical vest, ballistic helmet, those sorts of equipment that's provided in there.
Moved by Mrs. Cray. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the lease and maintenance agreement with OBM for updated copy and fax equipment at the fire department? Standard rate of $383.35 per month.
So moved?
Second,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, is there any abstentions? Motion carries. We have a motion, oh, Michelle, do you wanna?
Go ahead.
All right,
You
can I have
do
a
it.
motion for the approval of the acceptance of accept access and physical space grant from Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities in the amount of $10,000. Do you want to outline?
Yeah, we applied for a grant from the County Board of Developmental Disabilities. It's going to augment the grant we got from the CDSG supplemental grant. It's for a piece of equipment that is specifically geared to children in that area who have physical disabilities. It's a $10,000 grant. We got a piece of playground equipment. They're also going to pay for the rental of the accessible porta potty, not glamorous, but necessary at Kathy Edwards Park, and any extra monies will go for landscaping and hopefully at some point a physical path to walk strollers and wheelchairs through. So moved.
second,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I have a motion for the approval of a $700 expenditure to Swank for movie night.
So moved.
second,
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Are there any other motions or approvals?
No, Mayor, we were going to talk about the fencing, but Ms. Schickler was able to get some additional information. So this body will need to get a few more quotes based on the height of the fence and the style of the fence. I will hopefully have that for our special with the fire chiefs meeting.
Okay, I want to caution council for the meeting on the 22nd to not add 27 things to the agenda. Because there's going to be a discussion about a fire department contract and at least 4 interviews, if I understand correctly. So, yeah, we're going to be having a meeting 2 weeks after that, so 10 days after that. So just, I want to caution council from loading up a special council meeting agenda. Try and keep it short and to the business. All right. Okay, this is the portion of the meeting. We open the floor to the public for questions or comments. I ask that you direct your questions or comments at myself or a member of council, that they pertain to any village topic, and they will be limited to 5 minutes. We have set up a shock tool in the microphone, so if you go more than 5 minutes, you will be electrocuted. And then if we need to bring a department head in or a staff member in to help us answer the question, we will do so at that time. Any member of the public have questions, comments? Mr. Dowd, join us. Talk into the mic, or the others, the public won't hear you.
Yeah, I had a quick question about, you were talking about this paint company headquarters. So that's gonna be right here, basically? Or
Just past the White Dove. Yeah.
past the White Dove?
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of White Dove, I know I joke around a lot, like, can I get a mural or something? But I noticed, I wasn't able to stay for the last meeting, but I talked to Arthur a little bit, and he was talking about just the general, plan for the city, which I think is fantastic. I was taking pictures because I forgot my glasses, so that's why I was snapping photos. But my question is, if you go to the zoning plan for the village on the county site, it shows that, Dove is light industrial. But on the one slide that he showed, it shows it in orange and it says multifamily something. I could show you the photo, but so is there a plan for that building not being there someday? Any details?
Not that I'm aware of. I would need to see that to be able to answer accurately.
I don't know if it was just projecting what it could be in the future or if it was a plan.
Yeah, and it very well could be. I would have to see it to be able to
Okay.
answer that question.
The other thing I was going to ask is, as far as, there was 2 meetings ago, there was a young lady that was talking about tiny home or something about tiny homes. What was that all about?
So there's a concept called tiny home, like the
Right.
little homes, and I think her idea was potentially a way to develop some of the vacant lots would
Right.
be establishment and placement of these tiny homes on those lots. I think that was an idea she had, and she wanted to
Are
present.
these lots all zoned single family or doubles or both?
They're zoned residential, so it just depends on what's proposed. It would have to go in front of the planning commission for approvals.
Because I was saying to Arthur, like you said last time that you still had or 2 times ago, you still had the tuition reimbursement program available.
The village does, yes. Yep.
Why not put just doubles, 1 bedroom, 1 bath even, that would fit into the architectural standards as shown in that site? And encourage some of these students to purchase a double where they could rent the other side out and they could start,
Listen,
you know what I'm saying? I mean,
if you have a developer that's ready to come in and build doubles,
I'll look for one.
give them my number. I mean, we'll talk to them. It's not that we're saying no to doubles.
Right.
We don't have anybody lining up to build them.
Right.
So that's actually kind of the groundwork and what we've been working on for the last, I would say, 12 months or more.
Okay.
Since COVID to kind of re-get things. So we're not opposed to any development, really. We just need to know what it looks like.
Right.
And then that of course goes in front of the building department, in front of the planning commission. That's not for me to say simply by myself.
And did that have anything to do with, now I saw the news a couple weeks ago where there was a $200 million grant with Key Bank associated with the city.
Unrelated to us.
Okay.
That's a private.
That's Cleveland
Cleveland
only
deal.
or
Yep.
county? Okay, I just wanted to
I
double
did read
check
the
on it.
article. Yep.
The other thing is I was looking up the address for the village hall and
Yeah.
it still
It's-
shows
Yeah.
since you're talking about websites.
Yeah,
we've
We've updated a number of times. We've tried to update it and let them know and yeah.
Wow. One other thing is, so what's going on with the crankshaft? I know that's Cuyahoga Heights. What is there, like 15 feet of frontage or?
No, the parking lot, nothing's going on with it. It's privately owned. Ohio Crankshaft was sold. We don't control that.
Right.
There's a parking lot that basically is the unpaved portion is in Newburgh Heights.
Gotcha.
But to that extent, that's all we know that's going on with that. I think they're continuing to operate over there, but again, because we
Haven't
don't
heard anything.
we don't
Usually I-
inspect them, we
I'll hear
don't do.
the boing, like, like a spring drop and.
Yeah.
But I haven't
so-
heard any of that, so I was, yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what they're doing inside that building.
Do you have a location?
Well, yeah, I know that, but
Do you have a location for the courthouse proposed yet, or are
we
you?
don't. There's, I mean, we don't. We haven't.
But the city's acquiring this house right here, correct? Next door?
Yes,
Or-
but that is part of, if you look at that master plan or that plan that was
Right.
just developed, Yeah, there's an intent to create some park space and a splash pad and things like that.
But that's not a
Change the
future
parking.
location for a courthouse?
It's not
or-
big enough. Yeah,
Not big
We don't
enough.
think it's big because of the added parking that would come with it.
Right,
Now, the place that it might work is down a little bit on the other side of the fire station in the old, where the old bowling alley used to be.
Okay,
That may be. We're trying to not to get ahead of ourselves simply because
you don't know if it's gonna happen.
we don't know for sure it's gonna happen.
Okay. That's all I got.
I want to know who Arthur is.
Microphone. With
Wasn't he
with
the guy that
OHM, yeah, it's
presented?
OHM. It works with Jim's firm.
Oh, my God.
The guy that presented
I
the,
thought you were talking about somebody from White Dove.
oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm mixing all my subject.
All right,
Hey, and I didn't say section 8 either.
all right, microphone.
That was a joke.
Yeah, well.
Any other public comments, questions? Okay, get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting adjourned at 8:25 PM.
Maybe.
You don't need this stuff, do you, Mike?
No, I didn't, I'll just do this.
It takes me a while. Oh.
Okay. You're not here? I can have, or I can have, Brandon, I didn't see.
If anybody wants a mailer, there's some, I have some extras here.
I know, who, I've talked to him, Dr. You, I think it was. It's kind of what he told me, that they got a contract with Caterpillar. But we don't, I mean, like, they haven't sent me a memo saying this is what we're.
Hey, Michelle? Michelle?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Oh, shoot, I probably got a ticket.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
They better not do this.
I'm going to speak to the chief for one moment.
That's okay.
Yeah, sure. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Good. Appreciate that. Thank you.